With the Etendo BI Connector functionality of the Etendo BI bundle, the user is able to create base queries and customize them if needed in order to provide information that can be used by Power BI. This functionality requires a background process to be set, which will create CSV files that will be uploaded to a server using both the pre-established base queries and their customizations if there were any. Once in the server, it will be possible to extract the files using Power BI. So in this video, we'll navigate through the configuration process for the Etendo base queries creation, and we will see an example of the CSV files that can be obtained. To start configuring the process, you first need to make proper settings from the webhooks window. This will later allow BI logs to be sent to the BI logs monitor window. For that, create a new record and complete the required fields as follows. Module: Base queries for Etendo BI. Name: Etendo BI Logger. In description, we'll add fill Etendo BI log window. Event class: Java. And add the package name for the fill log window Java class as shown on screen. Then, in the Params tab, you have to create 4 records using the following names: description, log type, organization, and rule. Another step to configure will be done through the User API token window in Etendo. Go to this window and create a token in order to grant access to a user role. In this example, we'll add Etendo BI token to the name field. Once you've created the token, go back to the webhooks window and create a new record in the Access tab where you will have to add the previously created token. This way, the webhook is properly configured and Etendo will be ready to continue with the settings of the module. Let's continue the configuration process from the BI connection window. In the BI connection window, we create a record to specify the path to the CSV creation script and the webhook to use. If the Etendo BI bundle is installed and the script path was not changed, the user should use the default value of repository path field. Otherwise, the corresponding path should be specified. And in the Data Destination tab, we need to specify the file name of the script. Finally, in the Execution Variables tab, we must create some records in the variable field. In this example, we create the following, which are mandatory: the IP of the server where we are going to upload the files, the name of our client, the user we are going to use to connect to the server. It is necessary to respect the specified names for the variable field. Also, it is important to note that the script is going to create a folder named as the value of the client variable and will contain folders for each organization that executes the background process. Therefore, if we have 2 BI connections with the same client value, the last execution of the process will overwrite the folder. Now you can load the Etendo base queries from the Enterprise Module Management window. Here, select Base Queries for Etendo BI and click the OK button. Once this process is complete, Etendo base queries should be successfully loaded in the BI query window. Let's see an example of a correctly structured base query and customization from the BI query window. This process allows modifying queries in order to get different information. In our base query, we just have 3 columns. In its customization, we have a new column name. Note that we have the 3 mandatory columns in the base query with the correct alias for column add client ID and add org ID. It is important to make sure that client ID and org ID aliases are being set without double quotes. Also, there should not be more than 1 space between the as keyword. In the customization query, despite the requirement to have the primary key with the same alias as the base query, it is not necessary for it to be the first column. In this case, if instead of having warehouse ID as first column, we have it as second column, the result will be exactly the same. The script will execute the base query and then merges the customization, using both primary keys for mapping the rows. At the end of the configuration process, the query will be executed and we will be able to analyze the CSV files generated. Once the query configuration is done, Etendo allows you to schedule a process. To do this, go to the Process Request window. Here, create a new record and in the Process field, select the Etendo BI process. Set the start date, the start time, the frequency, and the daily option to schedule it. All the obtained data will be filtered by the client and the organization that was configured in the background process, and not by the organization used in the BI connection window. If the organization does not have a configuration in the BI connection, Etendo will search for the configuration in one of its parent organizations. This way, the configuration is finished. We can check the status of the process execution using the BI logs monitor window. Therefore, we can see the records about the script execution created with its status in the log type column. For the queries that have a customization assigned, 3 different CSV files will be created with variations in their columns. Remember that you can check details in the functional and technical documentation about Etendo BI Connector to help you configure and execute this process. To conclude, let's see an example of a procedure. We can observe the base query along with the customization of it. It is important to note that the base queries comply with the restrictions indicated in the functional documentation, such as projecting the primary key, the client ID, the organization ID, their respective aliases, among others. Once the process is executed, we can see the information created in the BI logs monitor window, if it is correct, if there are customizations, if it could connect to the server, if the queries comply with the restrictions, among other information. The 3 CSV files were created. The first one shows the query base columns, which were not overwritten by the customization query. This second file shows all the base query columns overriding the ones shared with it. And the last one shows all the base query columns overriding the ones shared with it and adding the additional columns of the customization query. This is all we need to do in order to generate the CSV files that are of use in a data analysis software like Power BI. For more information, visit the link in the description below. That's all for now. See you in the next video.